Before I actually start my second speech, which again is a speech I'm going to be reading, it's not my own creation, I just wanted to introduce myself because that was suggested and I didn't do it the first time around. So my name is Robert Bodie. I'm Canadian and Transylvanian, and I'm an English A, French B, Hungarian C. I'm based in Paris. I train in Paris, so I give classes out of Greek into English, which I don't actually speak Greek, so it's a bit of a challenge, but it works at ISIT. And aside from that, I'm an accredited interpreter at the EU, so I work for the EU. I work for the French ministries and for other international organizations, as well as for different private customers in Paris. So that's me. And so the speech that I'm going to be reading out briefly in introduction is by Reince Priebus. Now, you may have heard of Reince Priebus. He's the current chairman of the Republican National Committee. So you're going to get a very Republican point of view on the world. Bear with me. It's always an adjustment. So here goes. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As elections are in the air, we have heard a lot about the policies of President Obama. And in many ways, the elections that are going to be coming are also going to be a statement about the policies of President Obama. And if you ask the country, I think most people would say that they know quite clearly that our party, the Republican Party, opposes many of President Obama's policies. And we oppose them because we know that there's a better way. Republicans have new ideas to solve the country's problems. We have bottom-up solutions that are founded on a free market, compassion, responsibility, and the idea that America is headed for better days. So, before the elections, before November, I wanted to take a moment to just cut through the noise and talk about what's driving the Republican Party. People know what we're against. I want to talk about the things we're for. Our overarching vision is a country that offers equal opportunity for everyone. In pursuit of that vision, our party's three core values have long been a strong economy, a strong society, and a strong defense. The principles for American renewal, which is what I'm outlining today, fit into these three categories. These principles represent ideas from across our party. These 11 principles unite us as a party and inform our policymaking. Whether you're running for governor in New England or for Congress in the South or for state houses in the West or for the White House. These principles cover 11 vital topics: jobs, spending, healthcare, our veterans, national security, education, poverty, values, energy, and immigration. But the first principle is about the Constitution. So principle number 1, our Constitution should be preserved, valued, and honored. Our rights do not come from government. As the Declaration says, they are rights endowed by our Creator. The government's job is to protect these natural rights. Our Constitution, our founding principles, are unique in human history. Our Constitution created a government of limited power, and it empowers all of us to preserve those limits. Our Constitution is the source of American exceptionalism. It is the wisdom of our founders and the foundation of all good policy. When followed, the Constitution maximizes freedom, opportunity, and individual well-being. So as I'll discuss many times today, the practical effect of a commitment to the Constitution is restoring power to we, the people. From our work to eliminate poverty to our efforts to improve education and healthcare, states need the ability to respond to their residents' needs. This doesn't just make constitutional sense, it should be common sense. The federal government has boundaries, and when it oversteps them, It is encroaching on your personal freedom as well as your God-given liberty to decide what is right for your own life. That guides our thinking on every issue. Right now, Americans say the economy is their top issue, so that brings us to principle number 2. We need to start growing America's economy instead of Washington's economy, so that working Americans see better wages and more opportunity. In other words, bureaucrats, lobbyists, and out-of-touch politicians need to get out of the way and give American workers and businesses the freedom to create jobs. Overtaxing and over-regulating create jobs for the wrong people, lobbyists and bureaucrats in DC. As money pours into DC, they take jobs away from the people that need them. People like middle-class moms and dads, young people just out of high school or college, minority communities where unemployment is above average. You hear Republicans talk about regulations a lot. There's a reason. Regulations come between you and the job. Outdated regulations are the reason that companies like Uber have to fight tooth and nail just to do business. Regulations make your paychecks smaller. It's one thing to protect consumers, that's obviously important, but it's another thing to protect special interests. So what would it look like if government regulators got out of the way just a little? Well, take a look at what Republican governors are doing. Every year, states governed by Republicans top the lists of the best states for business. Now, I don't mean Congress should close up shop, though some would say that under the Democratic leadership, the Senate did close up shop for several years. There are some things that Congress can do to get the economy going. For example, we have a proposal by Senator Tim Scott to help people get job training for new jobs. Many of these ideas were included in the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. This act passed Congress this summer. According to Mark Morial, head of the Urban League, the bill would mean millions of unemployed and underemployed workers and urban youth, as well as youth of color, can receive job and skills training, as well as support that they need to chart a path to a better future. That's the kind of thing that Republicans support. Bills like this act, or like other similar ones to support apprenticeships. There's an idea by Senator Rand Paul for economic freedom zones. Now, these could create jobs in areas of high unemployment and help alleviate poverty. But part of the equation is also getting Washington, D.C. to stop spending our money on things we don't need. So that brings us to principle number 3. We need to pass a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. Make government more efficient and leave the next generation with opportunity, not with debt. This year, approximately 4 million children will be born in the United States. The most popular names for girls will likely be Emma and Sophia. The most popular name for boys is Reince. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be Liam and Noah. An interesting fact is that a newborn baby's grasp is so strong that he can support his entire weight in midair with just the strength of his curled fingers. And hanging on for dear life is a great skill for babies born today to have, considering the burden you and I are going to leave them. We're leaving each child born today a share of almost $18 trillion in national debt. That debt means $55,000 for every child. Now, how is that fair? We should be ashamed if we don't do anything, because taking care of our generation should not require robbing the next one. That's why congressmen like Paul Ryan and Jim Jordan have produced budgets that would reduce and freeze spending. They would protect our safety net, and they would start paying off our debt. Today, businesses run more efficiently. Our homes run more efficiently. Yet our federal government gets bigger, slower, and more expensive. It makes no sense. So let's apply some 21st century efficiency to 20th century bureaucracy. Let's save money and let's balance the budget. Moving on to healthcare, which is one of the big drivers of our spending, we talk about principle number 4. We need to start over with real healthcare reform that puts patients and their doctors in charge, not unelected bureaucrats in Washington. Let me ask you this. At the most critical moment in your life, when your health and maybe even your life hangs in the balance, how do you want decisions made about what kind or even how much healthcare you're allowed to get? We need healthcare solutions that reduce costs, provide greater access to world-class care, and give Americans more control over their healthcare decisions. But Obamacare gave Washington, D.C. more control over our healthcare and patients and doctors less. Republicans trust Americans to make their own healthcare decisions. Democrats tend to get defensive when you criticize Obamacare for failing to meet its own goals. The comeback is to ask Republicans, what's your plan to make healthcare affordable? Well, I'm glad they asked. Now, if they'll just listen, I'll give you the answer. First off, the problem with the Affordable Care Act is it didn't make healthcare more affordable. We need to address a larger issue, and Republicans have solutions. We do what Obamacare was supposed to do, lower prices and expand coverage. Here are 6 examples. First, you need to allow consumers to purchase healthcare across state lines like you purchase almost any other good or service. Second, allowing small businesses to pool together to negotiate lower insurance rates for their employees. Third, you have to stop the frivolous lawsuits that drive up costs. We need reform of legislation around medical liability. Fourth, we need to expand the allowable expenses for health savings accounts. Fifth, we have to restructure the tax code so that Americans buying individual plans get tax deductions, which will level the playing field with those who have employer insurance. Sixth, we have to protect prices for individuals who have pre-existing conditions and yet who need to maintain continuous coverage. Unlike Obamacare, none of these reforms require new taxes. There's no handing over your information to an insecure website. If you like your plan, you can keep it. Improving healthcare access and quality gets right to the heart of the next issue, which is Veterans Affairs, as well as to our principle number 5. Our veterans have earned our respect and our gratitude, and no veteran should have to wait in line for months or years just to see a doctor. The Veterans Association scandal under President Obama is unconscionable. The big picture is that it's just another example of how mismanaged this administration is. The most important thing is making sure veterans get the care they need. It shouldn't matter if it's in a Veterans Association facility or not. That's why Republicans were proud to support the bipartisan Veterans Access to Care Through Choice, Accountability, and Transparency Act of 2014. This gives veterans the ability to get care from non-Veterans Association facilities when they live too far away or have waited too long. Republicans had proposed such measures even before the scandal about the Veterans Association made national headlines. Other scandals and issues have also knocked the Veterans Association out of the news now, but that doesn't mean everything's fixed. Republicans will be vigilant in the next Congress to ensure that the Veterans Association gets its act together and no one who risks their life for our country dies while waiting to see a doctor. We have to keep our word to our veterans, both because it's a moral obligation and because the service of our armed forces is critical to our national security. And that brings me to Principle 6, which is the last one that I'll be giving right now because unfortunately I will have to take a break after this. Principle 6 is keeping America safe and strong. And to do that, you need a strong military, a growing economy, energy independence, and secure borders. The federal government has no greater responsibility than keeping us safe. If you're not safe, if your family and kids are not secure, nothing else matters. With ISIS, we face an enemy who wants Americans dead and our way of life destroyed. We need leaders who will defeat terrorism, not manage it. We need leaders who will act decisively, not downplay the threat as just something that they need to manage. We need leaders who will take responsibility, not blame the intelligence community. This is no time to weaken our military. It's time to strengthen it. We can eliminate waste and bureaucracy inside the Pentagon, but we must have more resources for our troops. We also have to recognize the security threats of the 21st century and improve our cybersecurity. That's why the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mike Rogers, introduced the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act. And that's why we are going to introduce the Cybersecurity Enhancement Act in the near future. Like I said, national security includes more than just our military. It means pursuing energy independence and securing our border. And I'll come back to all of these topics and many more when I have a chance to speak to you again. Thank you very much.